When's the Hellbringer mech lab coming out? Have you like worked on it in a while?
I felt horrible because I've been procrastinating it with all the other shit going on in my life, but it should be essentially ready. The script should be done. The model, I think, is ready last time we left off. I just need to rig the model so there's an idle animation, and it'll be ready.
Yes, sir. I learned how to export like animations frame by frame out of Blender with Eevee.
Nice. I
And
just need to learn how to import them into my stuff.
yeah, no, no, the thing is like you can export an animation almost as like, and every frame is like a PNG where there's no background.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah, that'll actually be
Yeah,
really convenient.
and it's and yeah, you just line it up. You can literally like put those frames into like any like you can export a video from Photoshop. Like you can open the Photoshop timeline, arrange the frames, and then export that as a video, and then just load that up in Vegas or whatever editor software you use. Like
Yeah.
I've been thinking about like making some cool like turntables and stuff, just because I've got all these models.
Yeah, you should do that. What I do is pretty simple. I just set it up so that the camera's orthographic so you don't get any perspective distortion. I tilt the camera slightly and just spin the model. Just give it a big old spin, and
Big
it
old
looks
spin.
neat. Yes, yes, that's the proper terminology. Just give it a big old spin.
Big, big, big old spin.
Yeah, and
Where's
then
the? I'll show you my turntable model because we released it as like, oh look, I'm just messing with the Terra art stuff. No, this is like we're literally gonna put this turntable on the main menu. Like
ooh,
here's the image. Notice by the way, the base is a hex. Thank you.
oh,
I'll take my cash now.
ooh, let me
It's
see.
got a hex base, but it's like subtle. It,
Ah, yeah. That would look like a screenshot from Mechwarrior online. Like it should be. Like this is the way you look at your mechs. Yeah, I like it.
yeah, like where they kind of just like sit on a turntable. Dude, it's so weird that their feet just kind of slide on the when you rotate them. It's like, man,
Yeah,
I wish there was some kind of like thing. Like I wish even like if the door rotated or something, that would just make it so much nicer.
they did add that in MechWarrior 5. It's just MechWarrior 5 is just so blah.
Ugh. Yeah, no, I uninstalled it actually.
I played it
I needed the space.
yeah, I played it yesterday. I'm like, okay, I haven't played this in a couple months or so. I can't wait to go back and, maybe I'll really get into it again. I'll have forgotten about the little things I like. I played one match and a board. Done. I'm back to playing
Of
whatever else.
MWO?
MechWarrior 5, I got
Oh, Mechwarrior
bored.
5, Mechwarrior 5. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
When
yeah, even like when we did the co-op stuff, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna fly.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the game's just not holding our attention very well.
Yeah, it has so much potential, which drives me nuts.
I know it's a good foundation. It needs a little optimization, but it's a good foundation for a MechWarrior game. It's just God, man, procedural missions. Just no. It sounds cool on paper, but like, there's so much of like even just like the way the terrain is. Like, there's so much lack of design in every mission. That's why they all feel the same.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
it's also
it's just
every
not
mission
fun.
is just you get X quantity of every value. You get, if you're on an easy mission, you get 2 mechs and 5 tanks and 2 VTOLs. If you're on a hard mission, you get 5 mechs and 10 tanks and 4 VTOLs. Like, can't we have a mission with no tanks and a bunch of mechs? Or a bunch of tanks and no mechs? Just something simple like that?
You know, it'd be sick actually. You know in MechWarrior Online how they have like the mech kill screen inside the cockpit,
Yeah.
but then in MechWarrior 5 they removed it because you didn't need it. Well, take that screen and make it into like a score display screen. So like when you kill a tank, it's like plus 100 C bills, plus like tank destroyed, plus 100 C bills or
That'd
something.
be cool. That'd be more
Yeah,
much more
kind of like you can
organic.
like it would. Well, the thing is, like, you don't want to put that on the HUD because then like the hardcore people would fucking hate it. It's too arcadey. So you have to like, if anything, you gotta like integrate it into a screen.
Actually, I have a good idea, I think. You know how on the side of fighter pilot and mech fuselages they'll paint like decals, like, a plane for everyone they shoot down. Well, just have a screen so that you get a generic battle mech icon for every mech kill until it hits, 5. Then you get mech icon X, 6, and then it keeps counting. Then a generic tank icon, generic VTOL icon, and there you go.
You know what I think really hurts MechWarrior Online the most is the lack of it's the lack of like being able to like change your engine and make some crazy builds. Like it should have just ported MechWarrior Online's Mech Lab 1-to-1 at this point, because it's like you can't. It's so restricted. Like the cicada is completely useless because you can't change the engine.
Yeah, that's where you need mods. And I think this is somewhat of a Freudian slip, but whenever anyone talks about MechWarrior 5, they inevitably say MechWarrior Online. And I think it's because we have sort of the same gripes about so much in the game.
Yeah, it's weird that people use MechWarrior Online as an example of what's right to do.
I know. It's
because like people hate. Last I thought, like people hated like every aspect of MechWarrior Online, and it could never be made good because Rust Bullock is bad.
yeah. I try to avoid the behind the scenes stuff, so I hardly even know who Russ Bullock is. I just try to look at the final product, and it's just disappointing. It's like you go in expecting a steak dinner. I know food analogies suck, and then they give you a bowl of ramen, and you're like, okay, this is palatable
Well,
in
I
the
mean
small quantities, and then
assumes
they give you a
ramen is
can of
worse than
spam.
steak, though.
Yeah, like you go from
I like ramen.
ramen's good, but it's like MechWarrior Online's the ramen, and MechWarrior 5 is like a can of spam or like a turd. Like,
Dude, I mean, I think it's like you go in expecting a steak, and they give you like the shittiest cut of meat, and you're just chewing for like 2 hours to get this thing down. Like you got half a mind to send it back, but you don't want to be rude, and if you send it back, they might not make enough money. And
yeah, it's just like the fatty
yeah,
offcuts and nothing else.
yeah,
Man, even
yeah,
trying to
it's
talk
not
about
good.
Mechassault, we end up bitching about MechWarrior 5. That's how much it sucks.
Dude, MechWarrior, like MechWarrior 5 is a result of the lack of Mechassaults in this series. Oh, hey, Crow.
Hey, Crow.
Um,
Sorry, I was in the car when I saw the thing go
I'm
up.
glad you're here, because like a one-on-one I mean, me and Kilroy we've already been going 5 minutes. I don't even know if he's hit the record button yet.
I have. I just don't know if I'm going to keep it because we sort of inorganically just started complaining.
I wouldn't say that's inorganic. I would say that was extreme. Like we just flowed right into it. That is a podcast right there, my boy.
Fair enough.
It looks like a bunch of the veterans are like online. We could just bug them.
A couple of them aren't familiar with Mechassault in particular. We could change the topic since Founder's going to be on, or we could just talk about Mechassault right now and,
I mean,
'em.
it could just be casual BattleTech discussion, and like I'm the Mechassault guy. I know like so much. I don't know how much Crow knows. Crow probably knows a fair bit, but
I know a decent amount. I grew up with Mechassault 2 specifically. That's the one I
Nice.
played.
I literally have Mechassault 2 running behind me. I was playing it just before I got on.
Ooh, good choice.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about Mechassault. I love Mechassault 2 so much. It's so much fun. It's my childhood, like high school, late middle school experience.
Real quick, two things. I know Raccoon knows a lot about it, so maybe we should send him a message.
Oh, is he online?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know why he didn't get the ping. He was rattling around in his trash can too much. All right, I'll hold off on talking about Mechassault for a little bit.
Well, if you need something to fill the air, I could talk about dreadnoughts.
You should. I'm
I'm
totally
lost.
not saying this so you won't stop bringing it up. No.
I'm lost. Dreadnoughts like space travel, like BattleTech space travel, like dreadnoughts, like ships.
Nah, sorry. I just got back into 40K, and that.
Oh, I'm this lost.
It's not a big deal. It's just kind of. It was a bad decision on my part. Plastic crack is not good for you. It is bad for your soul. Sorry, I know I won't. I haven't been shutting up about wanting to talk about dreadnoughts.
No, it's fine. I'm joking. It's just we need to talk about things besides just BattleTech sometimes.
Right.
I'm I actually made a Dreadnought model a long time ago because I thought they were neat. But I could never take Warhammer 40K seriously. It feels like one big meme, and like all the players that were into it were like super edgelords. And I'm just like, I want to
Yeah,
joke about this. It's fucking chainsaw swords and space fungus,
and
going at
it's
each other.
yeah, exactly. And I will say, as like somebody who grew up on it, if you're not taking it seriously, that's how you're supposed to do. Like 40K is so grimdark and over the top that it was never meant to be taken seriously.
Mhm.
And if you go back to its roots, it was like a parody essentially of 80s Britain. Um, and is specifically like the Thatcherite era. Um, but I do agree. I think that it's never been the majority of people, but there are a lot of people who are either just edgelords or a surprising amount of just like self-styled like neo-Nazis into 40K,
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's unfortunate. I guess they like the aesthetic, but they don't understand any of the actual social commentary underneath it, which is
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true of BattleTech too, though not quite as much, and it gets a little awkward.
yeah. Well,
We should talk about the jihad and
Oh,
its timely commentary about Al Qaeda,
yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
That we're gonna stay away from
because
that.
that was like, yeah.
Well, you notice they changed it.
I
They
mean,
changed it to Crusade in the new Doom movie. It used to be Jihad, and they changed it to Crusade. Which,
Uh,
to be fair, if they're speaking English, they should just speak English. Like, there's no reason to have that word specifically be a different language.
yeah, as long as they get rid of Gom Jabbar, which is a really stupid sounding term, like
I
all the other
love.
made up
Are
stuff.
you? I love. I love that name.
I
It's
could
so
never
weird.
take it seriously. Like I
Stop
read the
taking.
original Doom book and I gave up halfway through because it had so many weird words.
Stop trying to take science fiction seriously at all, my man.
It's serious business, damn it. Why what how do the still suits function? Do they drink their own pee? Damn it. This is
I mean,
important
of course
stuff.
have I just wandered into the Living Legends Discord or what?
Apparently.
um, but yeah, like as somebody who like, for example, I really like the original Starship Troopers book,
Oh yeah.
and I don't think like the movie specifically that was based on it was like very kind of like making fun of fascism, which is valid. Like the movie's a fun movie, but at the same time, I don't agree with the people reading into the book, the original source material, and saying it's fascist. I don't think it is. Uh,
Hmm.
but unfortunately, fascists latched onto it in part because people say it is on the internet. So
Yeah, it's been almost 20 years since I read the first Starship Troopers. I saw the movie when I was like 7, and of course I
Mhm.
went out and bought the novel, and I was like, "This is boring,"
Yeah.
and I didn't get the commentary or the realistic military stuff. So I don't remember if there was any actual commentary like that. But the film itself was more just in the style of a propaganda film, and the rest just sort of flowed into
Right.
it because Paul Verhoeven he's known for his satire and um, copying the style of certain genres and aesthetics,
Mhm.
especially in American politics.
Yeah.
Um,
I the speaking of like science fiction books that have like great payoff or whatever, but are like really, really hard to get into. There's a novel called The Forever War that was recommended to me when I was like 14 and I was going through like a science fiction phase. And it's basically about a unit of soldiers who have to go off and fight a war in another star system, and that basically means they temporally like basically their time becomes completely different from Earth time. And when they come back, like everything's completely different.
so basically a time dilation thing, and when they come
Right.
back, the war they've been fighting has already ended, or they it's become irrelevant to the society or something, I assume.
Yeah. And like and each time all of them choose to go back and fight another campaign because essentially the people they've been fighting with are the only people they can still relate to.
Yeah, I think I want to say the YouTuber Dominic Noble covered that book recently.
Mhm.
So I was curious about getting into it. It sounds like a really interesting concept. I have not read it yet
Yeah.
myself.
It's a really cool concept. It's kind of, I guess the word I would use is trite in the way that, like, the reason that I was turned off from it was the way that it kind of, when something is like pulpy, I think it rides a very fine line between like just being too much and catching your attention. Like, for example, I think the book Jaws is very pulpy, but it's just pulpy enough to kind of get you to pay attention. But in my opinion, the Forever War is pulpy in kind of a obnoxious way. It's like garish in the way that it's written at times. It doesn't really add anything. That's just my opinion.
Okay. I have not read it yet, so I cannot say.
Mm. I don't think I've been on the podcast with you before, Mr. Pajama Boy.
Yes, hello.
Can you tell me a little about? I just clicked on your
Yeah.
thing.
Sorry, I
Ahoy, SpongeBob! I've overdosed on mech coolant and I'm going to die. Yeah, yeah.
I've overdosed on ketamine. No, I'm the project lead of Wolves, which is the Mechassault fan game. That's me. And yes, sir. That's pretty much it. I'm not really special other than that.
Well, that's cool. I've ran into a couple of different Mechassault projects. Like, there's a couple of fan made Mechassault projects floating around. I haven't
heard of a couple. I thought Wolves was the only one.
Sorry, when I say a couple, I mean like two. I specifically know about the one you worked on, and then like one other one. So tell me about that. That sounds interesting. I've never. I don't know the first thing about it.
Wolves is based more on Mechassault 1. I don't like if you've seen Mechassault 1. Like basically, once you pick your mech, you're locked in. You're not getting out of mechs. There's no like battle armor. There's no like VTOLs and other stuff. It's a really like basic. Well, it's a basic recreation of Mechassault 1, designed more to be more of like a competitive multiplayer shooter. Like it's things like aim assist are basically gone altogether. So it's not like you're just pointing in a direction and your DOS round is like curving around corners to get to your target, things like that. Like just really like not huge adjustments, but adjustments that make the game a little bit more modern, a little bit more like competitive, and a little bit less like blocky and slidey.
Well, yeah, no, that sounds great. I know a lot of similar games and projects where what the quote unquote modding turns into is just all the little tweaks, all the design oversight from the original project. Sorry, I was out in the cold, so I'm packing up some phlegm.
Don't worry, we're all getting caught up on stuff tonight. We're all out of whack.
Well, Pajama Boy, if you don't mind me diverging a little bit into and don't feel like pressured to keep this Kilroy if it doesn't seem interesting or whatever.
Yeah. Fuck it.
So what's cool about Dreadnoughts? I almost like really wish Dub was here because I think he'd very much appreciate. Yeah, it looks like he's offline. Oof.
Oh.
But basically, you got your Space Marines, which, if you know anything from 40K, it's probably just what Space Marines are. 8 foot tall, genetically engineered, superhuman soldiers with a lot of extra organs that make them really hard to kill. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was literally just going to ask. My Discord window keeps lighting up. Are you guys getting feedback from my mic?
No.
Okay, carry on. I was just worried that I was ruining the audio.
So what's the only thing that's cooler than that? Well, old people, of course. When basically dreadnoughts are walking coffins. They're what happens when a Space Marine gets like injured to the point where he wouldn't be good in a fight anymore, which takes a ludicrous amount of punishment. And basically, they stick him in a sarcophagus life support system, and they only troll him out when they need something killed, and he spends the rest of his time either in stasis or like being a historian. And I always found that like super interesting, like the idea that this guy is using his functional immortality to kill things and to keep books.
Yeah, the mental contrast is pretty great. I just imagine the big dreadnought suit with like a pair of glasses, staring very cautiously or carefully at a big tome or something, carefully flipping pages.
The classic one I've seen is from a voice line in Dawn of War 1, where it's a dreadnought and he's got a tennis racket, and it says, "Even in death, I still serve."
Yeah, I have actually played the Dawn of War stuff, so I'm somewhat familiar with
That's a
Warhammer.
good series to like get a casual dose of 40K.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just Sir Dub several podcasts ago mentioned basically the idea of the suit outliving you, of the mech outliving you, you getting hosed out of the mech when you die, and that kind of put me on a train of thought towards dreadnoughts, because not only is that true, the armor itself is even older than the dudes who are sometimes thousands of years old, but you become the suit in a lot of ways, which is the other weird thing. We could I could probably spend a whole podcast talking about the interesting narrative concept of the machine spirit. It's neat.
Yeah, it's interesting in a way, though. It sort of gets almost philosophical. You almost get a ship of Theseus dilemma if, the person is slowly being replaced by machine parts as their biological body degrades.
Right. Well, I would say my dad, of all people, who's like an old science fiction buff, he had the one good answer to that question that I've ever heard. And it was, you inject yourself with nanobots that are essentially stem cells, like they can replicate any type of cell. And then you just wait for all of your cells to die off, and then you're completely synthetic. And I would argue that you're still the same person.
Then my answer might be slightly more philosophical. I like your approach, and if I had to be converted into a synthetic person, I would totally take that approach first. But I think if we really want to get down to the nitty-gritty, the self is probably just a label. We're just cells that think.
Have either of you played Soma?
Yes, I love that. I love that game, and I won't spoil it for people who haven't.
Yeah, it's fucked. That's all I'll say. It's fucked.
Yeah, if you're not even a video game person, if you just like a good story, play Soma. It's very
or
good.
look up a playthrough. Like it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. You can literally toggle a button so that there's no threat in the game. If you just want to experience a good story, you can walk through the whole experience, and I'd still say it would be worth it.
I think the YouTuber CGP Grey did a whole episode on basically, it started off with the whole classic, does the Star Trek teleporter kill you? And he just went down this massive diatribe of breaks in consciousness and what they mean for the human experience. It's really good.
Yeah, I have a pretty big interest in philosophy, actually, so which obviously comes up all the time on my Mech fan animation channel.
To keep this rolling tangent going, have you ever read or watched Dark City?
Oh shoot, actually no, but I am familiar with it.
That sounds like it'd be just up your alley. It's like all about this problem of existence, what makes you yourself, and like if you were put in a different situation with different memories, how would you act? Would there be anything that would still be recognizably you?
Yeah, and it's always kind of interesting. You sit back and think, like, if I were to encounter myself from 5 years ago, I'd probably kick myself in the nuts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's even truer when you're younger, because I was pretty much everybody's at least in some way an awful person when they're a teenager, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah, we definitely all start out sort of lacking empathy and have to learn that as an acquired thing. I don't think empathy is a readily, an
It's not
inherent
inherent.
quality.
Yeah. It's not inherent. Because I did not have empathy. I was an edgy teenager just like everyone else.
Yeah.
Not me. I was totally different.
My fedora was gray. It wasn't black.
My beard was the neckiest beard of them all.
By the way, to keep this horrifically like mangled tangent going, that reminds me of when I was in high school. I had to take the subway, and it was the DC subway, so it was terrible. And I saw in the wild 2 honest to God fedora neckbeards.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them was really, really fat, and the other one was a beanpole. They looked like cartoon characters. They were so perfect in their like, in their like, and even back then I was like 15. I was like, what the fuck? And of course, one of them had, I shit you not, one of those. You're not allowed to take weapons on the subway, obviously, but he had one of those fake plastic katanas that you stick on your like suitcase to make it look like you have a katana sticking out of your suitcase.
Oh god.
And they were loudly arguing about feminism, which was, of course, the icing, the creme de la creme for a neckbeard. Yeah. Oh, and not to throw too much shade, but both of their fedoras had like, I think they're called cutie marks on them. They had the My Little Pony like stamp.
Shit, that's like the quadruple slam dunk. Like
they were. There are people like who are just that out there. Like you think, oh, stereotypes can't be real all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah, I've been to plenty of conventions, and I know that they exist. Just
I've never met like I've seen like I've met like stereotypes online, but I've never met them like in person, because I think like I think it's hard to be. It's easier to be so shamelessly stereotypical when you're on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even on the reverse side of that, like, you know, there are just crazy inconsolable feminists who like will break down crying talking about women's rights. Like I'm not throwing shade at that movement at all, but just like stereotypes of that. I met a girl who was like that in VR chat once, and it was like the most uncomfortable like thing I've ever had to sit through. I just eventually like walked out and then disconnected. I was like, no way, I'm done for the night. But I've never like seen that in real life. And I live near Toronto, and Toronto is full of those kinds of like people. Apparently, I've never met one.
Cities are always like their own ecosystem when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah, I used to live in Philadelphia, and I was born in DC, so I'm used to the extreme, meth addict, crazy, literally wielding a knife, ready to stab you in the kidney type people, combined with the ultra hippies, and just the sheer friction is just interesting.
That is kind of what's beautiful about cities in a way, though. Like, you could find anything in a city, really, if you look hard enough.
Yeah, you get that many people together.
DC is not a good city, in my opinion. As somebody who's lived in the area my whole life, I do not like most of what, like, DC has some nice parts. Of course, it's a city; it's bound to have some nice things in it. But
Smithsonian's good.
I do not like most of DC, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
I think we can all agree the worst city is Detroit, though.
Yeah, but like cities are always their circumstance. Like the reason Detroit is like what it is it used to be the production hub of America, and now America just doesn't produce things anymore.
Literally Motor City.
Right.
Like, yeah, and then all the car factories shut down.
We switched from a production economy to a service economy, and that really screwed over the Midwest.
Yes, sir. It'd be cool. It would be cool to see all those cars, like, just to see like that industry come to life again.
Well, you know what's really popping off in the Midwest is hog. That's where like 85% of the pigs in America is the Midwest. That's their big industry now, is pig.
That's an interesting thing to be known for. Like what's your what's your city or your country known for? Hog.
Well, if you say it like that, I don't know. Oh boy,
man! I'm just trying to trace the mental path of our conversation.
Well, this is stream of consciousness, really.
Yeah.
How come there's not a mech called the Hog? They're named like mechs are named after so many animals, but there's no like, yeah, I'm taking my hog into the battlefield.
There's a warthog, actually.
There is
Right.
a warthog. There is a warthog, but not just a hog or a boar.
There
Boar
might be
would be a
boar.
good name.
Boar.
I think the
You
boar's
could
a
have like a
proto-mech.
couple of chest-mounted guns on the upper torso that look like tusks.
That'd be cool. There are the bolt-ons in Mechwarrior Online that kind of look like tusks. I don't know why they're like the most popular bolt-on item.
Bolt-on items are like, I don't know. I like the idea of being able to shoot things off, but at the same time, like I figure it would be a balance of managing player enjoyment with like getting things shot off and not being able to fix them and kind of just being shittier until you die. Like kind of sounds not fun to me. And it's always interesting, in my opinion, to watch how game designers try and balance those two factors in any type of thing where you have like parts that can be disabled.
One idea I kind of like that was in the BattleTech novels was when an arm or something would get shot off of a mech, suddenly the mech would become much lighter and would become more maneuverable, would be able to turn faster because all of a sudden it has a piece of it, a huge chunk of its mass gone, and its engine is still functioning and it can move a bit quicker. Or like it'll get an arm shot off, but it'll be off balance, so it can turn quickly one way but not the other. And
I need to get into those novels. I think like that might be my in as somebody who isn't a huge fan of the games. Maybe that's my into the universe.
Maybe. Oh, go ahead.
I just finished Lethal Heritage.
Nice.
Yes, what a surprisingly good book. I was not expecting it. You know what's bad? I was back then, like when I was just starting to read Lethal Heritage, my girlfriend had dumped me, and the book opens with all of the main characters getting dumped by their girlfriends. That's like the first chapter of the book is like everyone's getting dumped. I was like, fuck, I feel you, Phelan, buddy. Fuck.
Wow.
Like, good book though, actually. A lot of people do actually start with the Blood of Kerensky series, from what I've heard. That was my third or fourth BattleTech book that I've read so far.
I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast. I might have at some point. But many years ago at a hobby store, I met this old dude who was a Vietnam war veteran. And the reason I found that out is because I was looking through a historical like campaign game, like a book on the shelf about the Vietnam War. And I've opened the page and he just points to the page and he's like, "Yeah, that was my unit." And that was really cool. But the dude specifically knew like everything about Halo, like the entire Halo expanded universe, and he'd never played any of the games.
That's so weird. Because see, like I'm quite a big Halo fan actually, and like I feel like the games are the main attraction. Like the books are fantastic, but like to skip the games.
Well, he was like an older dude. I don't think he could have played the games even if he wanted to. But apparently, like a thing that's kind of cool about Halo is it's always been good at depicting. It's good at realism in a lot of ways, specifically in how military wet work and bureaucracy works.
It's a very grounded. Yeah, it's extremely grounded. It's really close to home.
Exactly. And so this guy apparently really liked the books because they were realistic to actual military life in a lot of ways.
I think I'm actually in the same boat as the old guy. Like, I really enjoyed the Halo games growing up, but I got into the lore and really latched onto that. And I actually went back to play Halo 3, which I thought was like the best game in the whole series a few weeks ago, and I'm just like, it didn't really click for me. I'm not sure if I'm spoiled by PC games or if it's not as good as I remember or what, but for some reason...
No, dude, you're actually right. Like, Halo 3 is a weird one because it's everyone's favorite, but it wasn't my favorite, so I've always been in the minority. Like, I just didn't like the way the weapons felt. I didn't really care for the sound design. The graphics were a little weird, but like the campaign was good, but like I don't even play it anymore. Like if I'm playing a Halo campaign, there's a good chance I'm probably playing like Halo 1, because Halo 1 just has such a time, like you can just play that campaign over and over.
Yeah,
And especially with like the recent releases of like the mods like Cursed Halo. Oh my god, Cursed Halo.
Yeah.
I know what you're
Amazing
talking
mod.
about. Hilarious.
I love that mod. SPV3 is garbage though. I will just flat out SPV3 is not good. But yeah, no, like the campaigns have gotten less and less impactful as time goes on. Like I don't even want like a Halo 3 anniversary. Like I feel like I've gotten the most out of that experience.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You do the
okay.
going.
I agree that Halo 3 is pretty underwhelming. I'm not the sort of person who focuses too much on gameplay. I'm much more of a story kind of guy, even in games like Halo, where story isn't a huge deal. But Halo 3 did not have a bad story. It just had a story that it was a letdown in a lot of ways, I think, because there were a lot like Halo 2 was actually really well written in my opinion.
I love Halo 2 is my favorite story in Halo besides ODST.
Yeah, like Halo 2 had a very good story, and Halo 3 wasn't bad in the story department, but it was a lot closer in quality to Halo 1 as far as like story beats go. And Halo 1 wasn't bad, but it was very, very simple. And like they didn't give Truth the proper send off he needed. Like they could have handled it a lot better, in my
They
opinion.
also
Like,
changed his voice actor. I don't
yeah,
think people
but
mention that enough.
what can you do? Like
Yeah, that kind of bugs me
whatever.
though. His new voice isn't even like his new voice isn't nearly as like elegant as it was in Halo 2.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I agree. Like he sounds amazing. He
not
sounds
elegant.
great. He sounds like he could really convince like a bajillion species.
He
to
sounds like a
welcome him.
politician. Like,
Right.
yeah. Not in Halo 3 though. In Halo 3, he's just crazy, man.
Yeah. I will say also I'm a Bungie purist. Like anything past Halo 3 is non-canon in my opinion. Like I think Halo 4 and beyond just kind of shat all over a lot of like the
I
spirit.
liked Halo 4. I didn't like Halo 5. I don't think anyone liked it. And Halo Wars 2 was pretty incredible. Like that was the best like post Bungie story I think that exists in Halo right now is Halo Wars 2. And like everything. That's why I'm excited for Infinite, because like basically anything after like the Banished were introduced were like a million times better, because the Banished just feel so right. Like they feel way more right than like this random section of the Covenant that you need to read the books to understand. Like Halo 4 and 5.
I see. For me, I'm a really big fan of the older fluff, where the catch of Halo 3 was the humans are the Forerunners. That was the original like ending. That was the cap on it, and I thought it was really clever because it takes the whole mysterious progenitor race thing and just kind of turns it on its head. And the fact that they said, "Oh no, the Forerunners were just butt buddies with the humans," like they really liked them for some reason. And what also does not make any fucking sense is the fact that the humans are the Forerunners makes sense, because why wouldn't the Forerunners also save their own species if that is something they could do with their technology?
Wait, is this based on what Guilty Spark said, or is this based on like the terminals as well? Because I actually have never read fully through the terminals.
The terminals are like the ones in 3, you mean?
Yeah, I'm just wondering like what your bait, because I've never heard anyone bring that up, like other than what Guilty Spark says in Halo 3. Like your Forerunner, but this ring is mine. Like I don't.
That's.
I think
Go ahead.
Like because that was never explained. Like, and 343 felt compelled to explain it, but I don't think it's a terrible explanation, because it ties in. Like it makes a lot more sense after you play Halo 4, because the librarian literally like kind of turns Chief into a Forerunner.
Right.
Like she like gives him like the immunity to the composer and a bunch of other shit. Like that's probably why Spark like saw him as a Forerunner. That's what people say.
My point is that I don't think making them two distinct species added anything. I think it actually kind of subtracted from the mystique of the original trilogy. And that's, once again, that's my opinion. But I'm very big into kind of headcanons, honestly. Like taking what you like from a setting and throwing the rest away.
Yeah, death of the author type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Like 40K, for instance, I fucking hate the new fluff. I just ignore it, and I go on with my life.
The only franchise I do that with is Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars is such a rat's nest.
I have been, and I know this is like a normie position, but I've really been enjoying The Mandalorian, and I realized it's because it's a B story, and those are always the best in Star Wars. The less it has to do with the Force, the better.
Yeah, I consider Star Wars, the original film, and Empire Strikes Back to be my headcanon. Return of the Jedi is a fun movie, but it's got so many problems, I can't squeeze it into my headspace and have it make logical sense. And then there's The Mandalorian. It's like completely disconnected.
Well, and I would say, have you read the original Thrawn trilogy that started with Heir to the Empire?
I read every single Star Wars book for the last, up until like 15 years ago.
Yeesh.
Yeah, well, I was that nerd.
I love those books. I forgot how good those books were. Like, they're so good, and they're so like dead on. Like the characters in Star Wars aren't complicated, but the writing in Heir to the Empire is so good at catching like 4, 5, and 6. Leia, Han, and Luke are all like there as themselves in those books.
Yeah. The only thing I don't quite like about the Thrawn trilogy is Thrawn himself. I feel like the Thrawn trilogy takes, it spends a little too much time telling us Thrawn's clever rather than him being clever. And he does do clever things, like the, cloaking asteroids over Coruscant and lying about how many there are. That's legitimately clever, but it feels like you guys wouldn't think of this in the first place. This feels like really basic strategy. And I realize if you're explaining a strategy, a character can only be as smart as the author, which is not a dig at the author. It's tough, but it's average level intelligence, and it sort of makes everyone else come off as a little stupid.
Yeah. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. There's another series that is in a lot of ways really good. It's completely unrelated to Star Wars, but it's similar in that it like talks about a military campaign.
Is it Ender's Game?
No, it's the Powder Mage trilogy.
I've not read it.
It's pretty damn good. It's the main central thing is there's wizards, but their only power is related to bullets and gunpowder, and they huff gunpowder like cocaine, and it gives them superpowers.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and like there are like traditional mages with like elemental powers and shit, and they just killed them all with bullets because the traditional mages can totally take like a zillion powder mages in a straight up fight, but they can't react quick enough to not get shot in the head.
Oh.
But similarly, the main character in those books is like this renegade general who like murders all the royalty and has to defend his country during its transition into democracy, essentially. He's like Napoleon if Napoleon wasn't a dick. And wasn't power hungry and yada yada yada. Napoleon crossed with Cincinnatus, I guess. But he comes off as a competent general, but he doesn't really come off as some sort of amazing, like, super genius, the way the author kind of, I think, wants him to be coming off as. And he does a couple of clever things, but he doesn't, like you said, he isn't some Machiavellian genius. At least that's not the way he's really written.
Yeah, it's tough. I think authors tend to get a little too specific about certain details, and that tends to be their downfall. Like, sometimes it's best to just literally say, and then a conversation happened, and we're moving on.
I am really sorry to everyone here who wanted to have long form discussions about Mechassault. I don't have much to say about Mechassault.
Without founder here, maybe it's better if we don't focus specifically on Mechassault today, though.
Yeah,
fair enough.
It's just on the topic of military stuff. Have you guys ever played Metal Gear Solid?
No.
I love Metal Gear. I heard the and I felt like your eyes were rolling, but like, dude, I love Metal Gear Solid and I hate Konami.
I totally agree with you on the Konami thing. Konami sucks.
I get a very
I don't.
That's unfortunate.
I don't like the only thing that Kojima ever wrote that I liked was, did he write Snatcher? Was that him?
I have no idea.
I liked the one like point and click adventure game on a space station that he made called like Deep Blue or something. No, that's the name of the goddamn chess computer. It's something
Deep Rock
Blue.
Galactic, something like that.
It's basically just like a political story, and his weird like fixation on tangents works in that setting. And I don't like anything else he's ever written. I'm sorry.
I really like his cinematography almost more than his narratives. Like his narratives, like they're okay. Sometimes they don't. Like Metal Gear Solid is so convoluted sometimes that like your eyes just kind of glaze over and you're like, what? But like the cinematography and stuff in those games, and like the way it's almost like watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Because like it's so dramatic and it's so like over the top at times.
Yeah, and I'm not one of those people.
Fun.
I really like JoJo. I'm not one of those people who's going to say JoJo's like a literary masterpiece. It's really not. It's kind of a mess.
I also, but one like the story that really worked and did it for me, I actually really like Death Stranding.
That's fair. I've heard good things about that story. I have not heard good things about the gameplay.
Well, it's almost as polarizing as the U.S. election. I mean, like people, it's either a 10 out of 10 masterpiece or it's like a 3. Like people, I actually did not mind the gameplay, dude, because honestly, like you're chilling and you're like walking over like different kinds of terrain and you're just kind of like enjoying the scenery and stuff, and none of the walks like you do really feel too long. It's just like, but it's not meant to be a really like super engaging game. I don't think it's just a game like you sit down and you chill and maybe you get a little baked and you play some video games, you know, but like you don't like, but then you get to the end of the game, and I'm not going to spoil anything because I think you should actually give it a play. I think you'd really like it because it's not convoluted and there aren't really a lot of like tangents. Like it's weird. I don't remember the last time I heard a tangent in Death Stranding. It's more like it's a much more like cinematic, and it's super weird, and like stuff doesn't really make sense at first, but if you kind of just power through it, like the ending cutscene is an hour and a half, and it's incredibly good. It's like the ending cutscene is basically like a feature length movie, or like at least like a good like it's a good story with a beginning, middle, and end right in the end cutscene.
Oh man, I hope it has a pause button.
No, that is actually a game I think is worth playing. It's out on PC now.
Fair enough. If it ever goes on sale, I might look into it.
That is a game that's worth, like maybe during the Christmas sales, I'll pick it up too, because I lent my friend a PS4 and I don't think I'm getting it back anytime soon.
Yeah, I have a laptop, so I'll probably have to get it on PS4 if I get it.
Yeah, good game. It's surprisingly good, and the music is good too. I love Kojima's use of licensed music when he uses it.
Oh, okay.
The way he used the man who sold the world in MGS5, really good.
Yeah, but that's Bowie. Like anything's good.
That's Bowie, but like, yeah, but I mean, like even in like Metal Gear Solid 2, I think the end credits theme. Oh my god, I can't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
Was, I don't know if that was licensed or if that was original. It might have been original, but it was like really good. That I was like that because it kind of takes you off guard. You're expecting like the Metal Gear Solid theme or something, and then this like smooth jazz comes over you, and you're like, whoa, what an interesting and unique experience. Like that's what I love about Kojima. His narratives, like they're okay, you know, but like it's all, with the exception, Death Stranding actually made me tear up a little bit with its narrative. But like,
well, fair enough. I to jump back over into Halo briefly. You said jazz, and that made me think of ODST.
I love ODST.
Yeah, it's I find the story to be kind of hokey, if I'm being honest, and that might have been the feel they were going for. But I want to say just off the bat, my favorite game is like by a mile. My favorite Halo game is Reach.
And I like Reach's multiplayer. I played a ton of Reach's multiplayer.
Well, yeah, it has like the best multiplayer.
I think I actually like ODST better than Reach because the story in ODST is a lot more human.
Yeah. See, the thing is that All the characters in Reach are very two-dimensional. You know them just long enough to get a couple of their traits down, and then they die, right?
Mhm.
But because I was already invested in the Halo universe, I kind of stepped back and enjoyed the horror of watching an entire planet with billions of people die. And that sounds weird, but just it was like the scenes where you see like an entire city burning, where it might have been ineffective if like that was the first introduction I had to the series, because I already cared about Halo and I already liked the setting. That really, and this isn't me bragging, but I am kind of empathetic to a fault in a lot of ways. Like I can't watch horror movies because like I
Mhm.
just can't watch people in pain.
Yeah, I
So
can't
like
watch people get embarrassed. That drives me up the fucking wall.
yeah. But seeing these people, especially because they're Spartans, which means they're basically slave soldiers. Like they did not have a choice in where they were and what they were doing. They were just kind of there and they had to deal with what was going on. And that really kind of spoke to me. I feel that very strongly. Something politics, like feeling like you're stuck in a situation or a setting and you can't really do anything about it and you just have to move forward with what you have.
Yeah.
Really spoke to me.
See, for me, like I think Reach, because it wasn't, because the thing is, for me, like by then I'd played Halo for a while and I had read Fall of Reach. Like everybody knew that everyone was gonna die before the game even came out. Like there were memes about it. Like
Well, yeah, because it's
everybody,
Reach.
yeah, exactly. And like that's cool, but like I don't know, man. I like Reach feels like a power fantasy when it really shouldn't. Like you're like during gameplay, even like I feel like Reach could have actually been better if you were playing as a Marine. Because like you get like the feeling of hope that Halo's known for. You see like a Spartan come in, and then like a Spartan just fucking dies in front of a Marine, and maybe like you could see the fear get to the Marines a little bit. But you
Right.
never do. Like the Spartans hold fast as you would expect from a Spartan. Like they don't get scared. They
Mhm.
they never back down, even when like he knew he'd die. Noble Six still like took the Mac cannon and you know
Right.
like did his thing without any fear. And it's like I didn't feel like any fear or horror because like man, I was still sprinting around assassinating grunts and elites without breaking a sweat. Like
Yeah.
like honestly, I felt like by the end of the game, like if you're playing on normal difficulty, you feel like the entire invading fleet could attack you at once and you could kill all those AI if the game let you.
Yeah.
Like you
And
Yeah.
that's yeah.
you
And
never get
that's
that in Reach.
let me flex my my 11th grade English chops and break out the word ludonarrative dissonance for that, because that's what that is. It's when the mechanics of a game work against the story.
Do you watch Folding Ideas?
No, but
Oh,
I wouldn't
he just
surprise
talked
me
about
if
that. He's a
yeah.
big YouTuber. Anyways, there is a pretty big contrast between that. Uh, and I love the Fall of Reach book, but when I played Reach, I actually don't like Reach the game very much at all. There's too much friction between, you know, the theme and the visuals. Because I mean, you are supposed to be an ultra badass, top tier, strict, disciplined soldier, but you go in and everyone in your military unit is in vibrant, bright colors that looks like they're straight out of a multiplayer match controlled by, 14-year-old kids. And everyone
Right.
has insane personality disorders, like the guy who carved a skull into his helmet. Like, that's you would get reprimanded. Why do we all have different armor on? Nothing's standard issue. Put your freaking helmet back on, dude. And the game takes itself very seriously in its story, and I just feel like they should have been a bit more jovial if they're gonna have this colorful aesthetic, or tone down the aesthetic and give them all, Master Chief's armor in the original Halo.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. And I have a couple things I guess I could like throw up as flimsy excuses. Like uh for example, the reason you could say the reason that they're all in bright colors is because their Reach is essentially a training world. It's not it's not like some border planet where the Covenant's attacking. It's meant to be this very important central military holdout where nothing bad will ever happen because it's so heavily defended. And when you compare, like you said, like you are right in that the colors are weird, because if you compare it to like the rank and file Spartans who see everywhere else, they're all in one pattern of armor with one color, with maybe
maybe
one
a stripe.
right, with a stripe, and like that's it. And I totally get that. But I don't know, it never bugged me. And I guess that just comes down to personality differences. Like what's enjoyable story for one person might be obnoxious to another.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd be okay with the colorfulness if the rest of the game was funner and, still kill him at the end or do something. You can have dramatic deaths without having the whole game be serious. I mean, Halo 3 has several major characters die while they, don't take the game seriously up until that point. Spoilers for a 20-year-old game, but Johnson's cracking jokes the entire time, and he bites it at the end pretty dramatically.
And the last thing he tells you in game is kick his ass.
Yeah, like that's not serious, but it's a serious moment, and it works for his character.
I think this is actually a great way to come back to BattleTech a little bit, in that like BattleTech takes itself way too seriously at times.
It does.
Like this is why, and this comes back to what we were talking about Mechwarrior 5 even before Crow joined. It's like, why did Mechwarrior 5 suck? Well, I think Mechwarrior 5 would have been a lot better if Mechassault 3 existed, because Mechassault 3 set the standard for putting comedy in a BattleTech game. Like literally, Lieutenant Foster is like fucking Adam Sandler, dude. This guy cracks jokes and he puts parts from the heavy mechs on the Cougar Scout mech. Like this guy, like, man, I wish they could have brought a little bit of that to Mechwarrior 5, because at least they could have made the game a little bit more enjoyable moment to moment if your lance mate. Like, even in Mechwarrior 4, like, oh my god, can we talk about Mechwarrior 4 for a second? Because what a game that was.
Yeah.
Like, your lance mates in that game had such unique personalities, and they were funny too, because they were all stereotypes. There's that dude with a heavy Russian accent, and there's like a girl who sounds really girly, and then there's a dude who literally sounds like a PNG of a rat.
Oh god, I think his name was Rat, wasn't it?
No, I forget what it was, but he literally sounded like oh my god, this is gonna sound really dorky, but it's the only thing I can think about. It's like Peter Pettigrew in Harry Potter, in the Harry Potter movies, when he talks like a rat.
Yeah.
Like it's like that. He sounds like fucking Peter Pettigrew in Harry Potter.
I know exactly which pilot you're talking about. I think it was like Goblin or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Goblin or something.
Yeah.
Like that, like, man, and you could see it in the animations too. As animators, we know that, like, you look at those mechs and they just have no personality. They're all so flat. Like, oh, they just kind of like, waddle around. Just no real effort put into like the strut.
Yeah. And to be fair, some of Mechwarrior 4's personality comes from problems with the game, but we can overlook it in a certain way. Like the Osiris, it doesn't have a run cycle. It just takes the walk animation and accelerates it, so it does this weird fast step thing, and it looks like it's being sassy with its hips swaying back and forth, and you're like, oh, that's cute.
Well, I can say, Senior game lead, why you would want to make like kind of the Mechwarrior game of your dreams, because I've seen a bunch of, basically everybody that I've talked to on this podcast does something along the lines of, most of these games have a lot of redeeming qualities, but there really isn't a superior version one. Like, all of them have weird quirks, all of them have like really bad design decisions, and like there isn't really a best one as a result. There's just like tiers of them.
Yeah, well, like Mechassault was the first video game I'd ever played. I think I can make that definitive statement. It was because like I was born in '97. My memories start with playing Mechassault on the Xbox. Like, and I actually don't like mecha outside of Mechassault. I've caught a lot of shit chilling in the Let's Talk BattleTech server because they always talk about Gundam, and I'm like, I don't really like that. Like, it defines an entire genre's existence, and it's like the only mecha game I like, and it also happens to be one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah. So it's like, So it's like the thing is, like, I'm not doing this for the BattleTech community, and I'm not doing this for Mechwarrior, though I don't intend to compete with Mechwarrior either. I really don't care if, they keep making Mechwarrior games or not. Like, I'm doing this because I just love this one game, and there was a third game in development, and it got canned. And it just so happens that BattleTech is in a position right now where another game could actually be beneficial. So it all kind of lines up. Like, if you're gonna do it, now's the time, because Mechwarrior 5 just came out, and no one's rushing out to get it, and it's not bringing any new players. And Mechwarrior Online needs new players, and Mechassault just so happens to serve as one of the easiest ways to get into BattleTech.
Yeah, I've been playing Mechwarrior Online lately, and man, it's desolate.
Yeah.
I played a little bit with a few streamers. I played with DeMonte Alto a little while ago, who's like an art streamer.
Nice.
Yeah, people are playing, but
yeah, just not many.
Sometimes it just gets really, like, you can tell when the good people come on, because, like, you'll just get stomped like 5 matches in a row. You'll be like, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, as somebody who plays TF2 pretty regularly, like, it's that, like, it's so polarized now. It's the squad of dudes who've been playing this game since launch, or a bunch of randos, and there's no real in between.
Also, I should correct myself a little bit, because I said, like, I don't care if they make any more. I do definitely care if they make more Mechwarrior games, because now, like, I'm invested. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I started with Mechassault. I am invested into BattleTech, though. Like, I definitely want it to succeed. It just so happens that my favorite game, which also happens to be a BattleTech game, is like kind of in a point where, like, we could use a game like this. So that's just a small correction there.
To circle back to your mecha statement, I now that I think about it, I like the Mechwarrior games not for the mechs. It's because they're good games. I realize I've watched all sorts of movies and cartoons and shows with mechs in them, and I don't give two shits about their mechs. Like when the movie Avatar came out, not the Shyamalan one, the Cameron one, of course, and I saw robots in it, and like, okay, I don't give a shit. This movie's kind of boring, but I care more about the cool-looking spaceships, not these stupid robot suits.
Right.
I watched like some shitty anime. I'm just like, this is giant robot, whatever. I guess
I watched Code Geass recently, and that had mechs, but like I didn't watch it for the mechs. I watched it because of the story. And there's also a fair share of anime titties in that show too, which is, you're never gonna turn that
down.
That is more polarizing than the election.
But no, for real though, like, yeah, it's weird. Like, when you really kind of examine yourself, you realize, like, oh yeah, I like BattleTech because it's BattleTech. I don't like it because it's a mech game.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you talk about Gundam, it's kind of like an entire genre at this point. So you can't just say Gundam. But you mentioned Gundam, and like, I like Gundam, but I'm kind of picky about Gundam. I only like original, like, Universal Century timeline Gundam, and I'm kind of picky even about that. And I'm definitely a casual fan. Like, I haven't watched everything. I haven't made my way. I have a hard time watching subs, honestly, because I have ADHD and I prefer to be like, I'm playing XCOM right now. Like, this doing two things at once is my preferred mode, and I can't really do that when I have to look at subtitles, unfortunately. But the reason that I like Gundam is more for the aesthetic and the cheesiness, and like, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but Gundam reminds me of my dad's childhood. Because it reeks of like late 70s. Like, it is the most late 70s like thing in existence. And that sounds weird, I know, but it's this extremely specific feel. It's not just the 70s, it's specifically the late 70s. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, it's got that aesthetic. I've watched like one Gundam thing, and like it has that cell painted look. Every frame, You know, it's really relatively high quality, but you can still make out all the little scratches and imperfections between each cell. It's kind of crude and low budget, but there's some weird charm to it.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I need to flick back to Discord here. What should I call you? Person that I have not been in it. Just Pajama Boy books, I guess.
Yeah, Pajama Boy. Yeah.
So if you're looking for a Gundam something or other that isn't Gundam-y, like you mentioned liking things for them being good as opposed to like their attachment to series or whatever. There's a Gundam OVA called War in the Pocket, which is fucking amazing.
I've heard about it because I had this conversation with somebody. It's funny because like I literally for a minute I got confused because I thought maybe it was you I talked to in the Let's Talk Battletech server because like, dude, I think it was oh my god, I'm actually gonna say his name because I'm not talking shit or anything. I'm just making the observation that we had this discussion. I talked with he's the guy who runs the Twitter and he posts a bunch of like art and stuff, but I can't actually find him because I don't think he's online. But I talked to him and he told me the exact same thing. Is you got to watch War in the Pocket, and then we made jokes like, oh yeah, I got Kool-Aid in the pocket, I got ravioli in the pocket.
Yeah, I was having deja vu.
Around for like I'm having deja vu right now.
Yeah, because I have talked about it on the podcast before.
It's like ravioli in the pocket. What's in the pocket, Oli? But no, like I see. I'm gonna catch shit given your target audience, Kilroy, but I hate old animation for all the reasons you described for liking it. I hate the lack of fluidity. I hate the scratches and like the kind of washed out colors and stuff because it's recorded on old equipment. Whereas like a show like My Hero Academia, like I get on every week for that show because I love that show.
For me, I don't say I like it. It's like watching I don't know. It's like watching a decrepit old person you like, you know, just kind of function. Like they're falling apart, they're a complete train wreck, but you're just like, aw, they're gonna die soon.
I can point to something specific. This is once again kind of a writing thing with Gundam. The original Gundam series, as janky as it is, the whole thing is that they put so much effort into that show that they didn't need to. They could have just made it be like another He-Man or like Transformers situation where it was like really minimum production values and nobody really gave a shit and it kind of memed its way into being good. And it was people who later went back and like put a lot more love and effort into it that really put the best stuff out for it. But like the original Gundam, for instance, like I knew I was in for some real shit when like he's fighting some random jabroni Zaku pilots, right? Like the classic enemies, they get killed all over that show. But every single fucking time they introduce like a pod of Zaku pilots, they go out of their way to give them like 5 minutes to just show them talking to each other and being people. And it's being like, yeah, you're not just killing nameless goons here. These are people with families and dreams. And like there's a guy, the generic Zaku is the Zaku 2, and there's some generic older veteran dude, but he's like, yeah, I'm in a Zaku 1, and it looks a little different. And I'm like, they didn't have to do that. They totally didn't have to do that.
Oh, that's
but they
neat.
chose to do it anyway.
I like that.
This kind of makes me think like, and not to cut off I'm not trying to like get off the Gundam discussion, but like I want the same people who did the DC animated movies like The Dark Knight Returns and stuff. I want those people to make a BattleTech animated movie.
That would be cool. Like I as somebody who does not give a shit about DC normally, I know what you're talking about, and those seem really good.
And, like I don't think anime is really a good route for BattleTech.
No.
Like an American company who do these animated movies for like DC and stuff. I think they would handle a BattleTech movie like expertly, and especially the writers there, man. Like they've got some crazy writers. Like if literally they paid DC to make a movie, or some kind of like animation studio.
Mm-hmm.
not like a theater, like no, like straight to Blu-ray or straight to stream, like not like a theatrical movie, because I don't like theatrical movies, but like a good like hour and a half like animated movie. Maybe you can make an animated movie of like Decision at Thunder Rift or something. Just start at the beginning
That'd be
and like
interesting.
do some of the
Yeah, just clean up the story a little bit, and I think that a little self-contained story in the periphery would be really interesting. And not to limit things, but we're approaching the 90-minute mark, so if you guys want to begin to wind things down,
Well, that works.
we can tie this up.
This has been a mess, but I've enjoyed myself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely sloppy.
we didn't even do like a proper intro. We just got right into it.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna start recording this. Fine.
Seamless.
Probably just gonna fade in as we ramble about whatever, Then who we are at this point.
While I have you guys, I am going to say I am still looking. I'm itching to fucking play some Space Marine, like the multiplayer version of that game.
Yeah. I need to reinstall mine.
It is super good. The horde mode on that is a ton of fun.
Oh, this also reminds me. I won't tell you guys where to get the download, because I mean that's a quick way to get into a lot of trouble.
Uh-oh.
But if you can get your hands on a copy of Mechassault, it is playable beginning to end in CXBX, the emulator, music and all, like everything works exactly as it does on the Xbox.
Oh my god. Okay. Speaking of piracy, I do have one more thing to add that is kind of specific to Mechassault, and that is how I played Mechassault. My dad worked for DARPA, and he knew a bunch of like tech nerds, even though he himself was not one. But he got me this Xbox for Christmas. I think it was an original Xbox, and this was way after the 360 came out. But I didn't give a shit. It was like more games, right? But it was hacked and had like 4,000 ROMs on it, half of which didn't work anymore. And I had to like sift through them to find working ones. And it also had a bunch of it was clear that somebody had like pirated the shit out of these CDs. Like he gave me like 4,000, not 4,000. He gave me like 100 CDs, and there were a bunch of ROMs for any SNES games on that Xbox. And that's where I played Mechassault for the first time. Mechassault 2.
I would definitely say if you can do it, like play Mechassault, like I said, like play Mechassault 1, because it's actually really good. I'd say Mechassault 1 is actually better than Mechassault 2.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, because Mechassault 2, like they introduced the mechanic of getting out of the mech, and it was like not to shit on the developer, because I love those guys, but like, man, that was not well implemented. You'd get out, you'd open a door, you press some buttons, and that's basically it. Like you get back in your mech, and it's otherwise Mechassault. Like it's bizarre. Mechassault 2 felt like a game without a ton of direction.
Yeah,
it had a killer soundtrack though.
Those stealth sections were like the weakest part of the game by far.
Oh, actually that's the one part where I thought the pilot was used well, is like planting charges and blowing up generators, like and like there's a big, and like you get the scale because you can see a mad cat kind of trotting down the street, and you gotta wait till it turns around. I thought that was cool, but like otherwise, like getting out and like opening doors and stuff was really lame.
Yeah.
I miss being able to pick your mech. Like I wanted like a hangar selection, like in Rogue Squadron, where you can pick your mech out of a lineup or something. But that was essentially never in the game.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
I am bummed out. I do not have the bandwidth to play the new Star Wars Squadrons game. Like I will not in a million years have a computer beefy enough to run that.
Yeah, it's EA, so I'm going to wait 1 year before I touch it, because I know it's going to be full of bugs.
That's a safe bet. Yeah.
I really wish they would just give a graphical update to X-Wing and TIE Fighter, because those games are still great. It's just that they're so low res and so like polygony that it's hard to tell what's going on most of the time.
Have you seen X-Wing Virtual Machine?
No, I'm assuming that's along those lines.
I think that's it. It's XWVM, and it makes an HD remake, kind of on the same level visually as Squadrons,
Oh, wow.
It's not done yet, but it looks really impressive, and it expands the campaign.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He's in an A-wing, looks like.
I think so.
Showing it off. That looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely something to check out if you're into it. I don't know if it's publicly available yet, but should be cool.
Oh, you know what just occurred to me because we were talking about EA?
What's that?
Imagine a game like Mechwarrior Living Legends, but it's in Frostbite. Because Frostbite was built for that kind of like vehicle game.
Oh, that'd be so much fun.
It's
Frostbite,
weird.
I feel like Frostbite could do it well.
That's such a weird thing when it comes to video games, is like how you'll have an engine that portrays reality very realistically in one way, but completely falls apart like a 4-day-old ham. Like if you try to make it do something else.
Yeah.
The old like whatever engine Mechassault was running on, for instance. Mechs work fine, mechs work great.
That was
Getting out of
that
the
was a custom engine. There's no engine listed in the credits.
Oh wow.
Well, you can feel like how they scripted that. You can tell because the pilot character is just a mech with no torso. The pilot model is just the leg, and so like you can run like around and see the front of the pilot model where you can't see like the front of a mech. Like that. That's funny. Like if Wolves ever did a pilot, we would just do it the same way because we don't need to do it any other way.
I never realized that, but you're right.
Yeah, no, it's just the legs without a torso. You can literally feel how they did it.
Well, seriously, nice to meet you, man, and keep working on your project. Like it takes a lot of like gumption to keep at something like that.
Oh, dude, we're doing some shit right now that, and I can't say what it is, obviously, but we're doing some shit right now that the BattleTech community is gonna look at and they're gonna be like, dude, you can't do that.
No.
Like they're gonna look at it and be like, that is everything like I don't want. And that's kind of okay because I'm kind of like all about challenging like how we think about BattleTech. That's the only way forward. We can't Mechwarrior the way it is and the way it's always been isn't gonna cut it, clearly.
Yeah, we're playing it ultra safe and it sucks.
I'm not saying Mechwarrior needs to become a third-person action game, but I am saying that we have to change how we develop these games in order to, if we want Mechwarrior to be good, and that involves things like porting it to console, for instance, which is a discussion for a whole other time. But like things like porting it to console, things like making it more accessible, a little less like dense with like lore and stuff. Because Mechwarrior 5, like it's wide as an ocean but shallow as a puddle, so it's got all these mechanics, it's got this mech lab and stuff, and then you get into the game and it's like, what's it all for? So
yeah, right.
Anyways, we began bitching about Mechwarrior 5 and we're ending bitching about Mechwarrior 5. We're a perfect Ouroboros of complaining.
Always the way.
Yeah.
All right. Nice talking to you, and nice talking to you.
Yeah. I was Ian and/or Kilroy, and this was Kuraman and Pajama Boy joining me, and we're doing the intro at the end because why not?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the Farcast.
This podcast was enough of a mess.
Yes, I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to slap it online. You guys can deal with the random pauses because you're
Kilroy's
big boys.
big sweaty release.
Yeah, right. Yes, my big sweaty.
Oh no, no, you.
That's staying in.
That's staying in. Nothing's getting.
There's a podcast. Real quick aside, I promise it'll be quick. There's a podcast done, and it's just a few animators. I think it's Flash Gets and Meat Canyon. It's they're just a couple animators, and they have a podcast. But they have the most genius, creepy name for a podcast ever. They start every episode with an ice cream truck jingle, and the background art is just the three of them in an ice cream truck. And the name of the podcast is The Cream Crew.
I do love a nice organic podcast though. It's like you're watching Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan like kind of just brings his guest on and then they talk about fuck you, whatever.
Yeah.
You ever tried
I kind of love that.
Anyways, I think we're gonna continue rambling forever, so I'm gonna call it right here. Thanks for joining me, guys. Catch you guys next time. We'll try tomorrow.